What we focused on selling were products for women, so cosmetics, perfume, and we started to sell some clothing, underwear, swimwear, so small clothing products that we could package up and ship via the mail. The first bit of feedback we had was that we would never in a million years ever sell clothing on the internet. What a stupid idea. And that's literally what we were told by, I can't tell you how many clothing retailers in the UK, clothing brands in the UK, were telling us that they would never sell any of their brands on the internet, and certainly weren't going to allow us to sell their brands on the internet. We rebranded to figleaves.com, and I was given the job of head of marketing. As we started, the bubble burst. So that was in the spring of 2000, of those of you who were involved in that space or remember that time. So we hadn't raised any money, and then the bubble burst. So then it was impossible to raise money even if we'd wanted to. So Daniel, who was the chairman, then put his house on the line. And as head of marketing, I had to make sure that for every pound of money, every roof tile that I spent, I had to acquire a customer. So we were incredibly obsessive about the economics of selling on the internet. So whilst most of our competitors had millions thrown at them, I had like a fiver. And that was very painful, but actually proved to be a blessing in disguise, because as the market unraveled and all these companies like Boo and so on, who'd had ridiculous amounts of money thrown at them and had whittled it away, we kept our heads down and we focused on what were the economics of selling our products on the internet. And what we found was that, contrary to everything everyone was saying to us, the clothing was the bit that was taking off, to the point where we actually dumped every single category, the cosmetics, the perfume, we dumped all of it and focused in on the clothing. I had come out of a very aggressive retail environment where we'd sat down every morning, not least because Daniel's house was on the line. Every morning we had a trading meeting. We knew how much stock we'd sold, how much surplus stock we had, what did we need to shift by the end of the day, what our margins were by product, by category. We were all over the numbers. And that's why, in the early days, I think Fig Leaves did really, really well. I was then thrown into a very different sort of business, which was a business where the VCs, I quote, were saying, build a great technology. We'll build, if that's good and consumers like it, users like it, they'll come, and then we'll figure out how to make some money from it. Breaking into the US, blimey, it was, yes, it's a massive market, but so are your competitors. And by the nature of it, digital emerged in the US first. Yes, we invented the internet here, but the fact is the US was a much better exploiter of that opportunity than Europe, and their companies in that space at that point were far more sophisticated with much bigger budgets. And so we found the competitive landscape, although we had a very compelling proposition, much tougher than we had found in Europe, and that proved to be very challenging. I'm a massive believer in hiring ahead of the curve rather than finding people. I think there's a time when you can sort of hire cheap and train them up, but actually it proved, I think in this sector, it proves to be often to be a false economy. Try to get people in who can either learn very, very quickly, but better is to bring in people who've got some experience and can pull the business forward. We have to move quickly. I think any digital technology company, as we were saying earlier, there's always the risk on the competitive landscape that people are going to emerge from nowhere very, very quickly with similar business models, and you've got to be able to execute fast. So just to finish off, what's this all about, and what have I learned along the way? And I do say this with a lot of humility, because not just because of our sector, I think it's just the right thing. I don't know everything, and I'm learning a lot. You focus on content and then take your eye off the mobile ball for 5 minutes and you've lost that. Take the eye off social media for 5 minutes and you've lost that. Everything is moving at an increasing pace. It's very, very difficult, even in this industry, to stay on top of everything.